Hey there, folks. The Alphonsus, the Hot Mess Gamer here, and yeah, right now we are. This is a recording that will hopefully go up Friday, if anything, for Distorted Reflections. And my goal for today is to kind of give an overview of what to do in your starter deck tournament. Now, of course, the starter deck tournaments are meant to be just nice, kind of fun way to explore the new champions and play some casual games that these champions haven't really entered the fray yet. Yeah, there's some people that already printed out proxy vaults and pretty much printed out test proxies for everything. But for now, the goal is that I want you to have at least a decent time of knowing what you probably should be doing as well as what you should not be doing, whether you're piloting Ciel or Diana. Right now, I'm at the table with Ciel right now. And usually this is kind of part of a kind of learn optimizing how to make use of what to do with X starting hands or so. Now, given the fact that going into this, know that no, there are no dungeon guides, heavenly guides, or any of the sort to get yourself to level up. There's no, we're not dealing with wins, so we don't have to worry about besiege to wins. And we're just here just to kind of get used to seeing some test hands in your upcoming starter deck tournaments. So at least you have a little bit of a better idea of what to do with these champions when you go in. Alright, so let's just say that we're playing CL, we're going to shuffle up, and we're going to see what's going to be our opening hand. Let's say you win the dice roll and you go first. Well, first you got to make sure you go searching through your deck, you get your Spirit of Fire, and then you draw 7. Alright, so given that we are dealing with the mercy of an opening hand, let's see what we have here. Now, as you can see, we have a Whimsy Warden, the Corey Beausoleil, Lamentations Toll, Ombuc Chevalier, Whimsy's Warden, Martial Guard, and the Savoyard Guard. Okay, so we are kind of lucky that we didn't get a lot of Umbra cards in our opening hand after the shuffle, but this could likely be a hand that you might open when you go into, say, round 1, round 2, or round 3. So going into whether you're up against a mirror match with CL or even if you're going up against a Diana player, you really are sculpting what your opening play is by activating some cards from your hand. Of course, the worst thing that can happen is if you have to say pass go, because that means you technically gave up a whole turn. So given that you are starting in your opening hand and you see that there are a couple cards that you want to put out there. Now with say Whimsy Warden and Savoyard Guard, these are not allies that you want to play on turn 1. Why? Because they don't really have the optimized stats that you're looking for. These are allies that you probably want to play maybe turn 3 or turn 4. So looking at whatever else we can do with our hand, we also have to make sure that we can activate something so we can level up from our material deck. So of course, we also know that we can't activate an attack card from our hand because there is no opposing spirit or champion across from us. So what I can do here is that we'll go ahead and we'll hard play out the Corey Beausoleil. Now, of course, we would forego the benefit of being 2 less to activate and our class bonus, but the good thing about playing a turn 1 Koi is that we are actually presenting a 2-4 threat that maybe most starter decks won't be able to address. A 4 health stat in a limited format like a starter deck tournament is pretty good to go. So what 5 cards do I want to put down? Well, usually you are going off the risk that you are going to use one of them to level up to access CL next turn. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to use the Ombre Chevalier as the 1. What would be the others that I would like to get rid of? Well, maybe I can get rid of the Whimsy Warden and the Savoyard Guard and another Whimsy's Warden. You usually are playing the stats right now because you don't have to worry about paying out one of these, and we would like to use the Martial Guard for Floating Memory. Any instance where you would like to use Floating Memory is good. So what will be our 5th card? Well, I'd rather give up the attack card. I want you to at least play a little bit of a Gamba when we're going into it. And then we'll leave that card in hand and pass a turn. Now the good thing about the Corey Beausoleil, well, guess what? She may not have taunt, but she is a very hard ally to get rid of, especially on turn 1. So then let's go over to the other side, and let's go see what Diana would be. Okay, so Diana, we're going to shuffle up, and let's draw 7. Alright, so obviously this is kind of the opposite end of the stick, where now we realize that, oh, we have mostly Ashla cards in our hand. This is obviously a problem whenever you go into a starter deck tournament because this is likely going to result in a pass-go situation. However, given the fact that we are trying to, have something out, and also we should make sure we materialize out a Spirit of Water, because that's what we need in order to draw a 7. But then let's draw our 8th. Okay, that obviously saved us for a little bit. That actually saved us. And that's why when you go in second, don't forget to also draw your 8th card going second. Now, this alone has definitely helped us a lot with fixing our hand because now we know what we need to do going into our next turn. This is now a hand where we can comfortably say pass go. We don't really have something we can charge, and we don't want to glimpse this. We have reposition. We could probably use that later. This is also a water deck, so it is on theme to say pass go. Well, alright. Let's go back to our red side here. Alright, so in our red side, we're obviously going to go level up. So, quick actions. Let's go ahead and banish 1. We lose out on a Lamentations total, which is pretty sad, but that's okay, because at least we still have all our allies. So go ahead and declare our level up. We're going to get our Ciel, Loyal Valet. And then we're also going to grab our Servile Possessions. And then we're going to go ahead and recollect and draw. So, recollect and draw. Alright, so what do we want to do here? Well, the first thing we have to do is that we've kind of got ourselves into an awkward situation because the key thing is we want to be able to banish something to our Omen. And likely that card is usually in the graveyard. However, with this hand right here, we obviously have to banish something from our hand. But thankfully for CL, we don't have to worry too much about banishing from graveyard when we're forced to do so from hand. So that's a little bit better when you read the Servile Possessions as well as its inherited effect. Remember, hand or graveyard. We don't want to do the hand, but, sometimes we just have to. So, I think what we can do here is that we could probably leave up, say, 2. Because right now we do have a way to protect our Martial Guard, so we protect our Core Basileir. So we can probably pay 2 here. And we'll play out a Whimsy's Warden. We just want to probably generate some allies, get some value, and, really take off things on a good note. So then, since we now have Taunt, now this Taunt unit is great. Because why? Because they have to swing into this at least twice or use 2 cards to address it. And now with the Whimsy's Warden, we can actually go feel free to attack. So guess what here? You get a free 1 point of damage on them. And of course, yeah, unless they have an answer, but they wouldn't want to get rid of a 1-2. It's fine. So what do we want to do? Well, we're going to trigger our inherited effect. Since we have nothing in graveyard, we would like to banish something from hand. So I guess in this case, we can probably banish out the Devotion's Price. So what I would like to do is kind of put that over here and put this card on top. Usually I would like to have the reserve cost of the card be on it, because that would be helpful in determining your different reserve costs. So let's go ahead and pass the turn. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and go to the other side. And now CL is going to be an end step. As a Diana player, you let them resolve their Servile Possessions, because guess what? At least that's one card you don't have to worry about. And then you can feel comfortable going into activating your backstep, which is arguably the best card you want to have in your starting hand. Now, what cards would I want to use to banish? Well, we know we need some of our, 4-ofs, and we want to make use of our floating memory. So, of course, we want to avoid using reposition. With Poised Occlusion, this is actually a negate card, so we want to keep that up. Although Constellation's Blessing, the key thing is that this is an Aether Calling card, so because we have it in our opening hand, we can't really Aether Call it, and we're going to need to be at level 3 for it. The Sidewheel Spell Shot is also another Aether Calling card, and the Glimpse X is going to help us with Aether Calling into loading our weapons. So we're going to go ahead and just get rid of both Constellation's Blessing. So I pay 2 memory, I'm going to activate Backstep, CL, assuming they have no response, we'll go ahead, draw 1, and now we have a distant card. So, when we go and level up, we're going to go ahead and go to our quick actions. We're going to banish 1. And then we're going to search out for our Diana level 1. Our Aether Dilettante. We go ahead and, not ride up, but materialize. And we materialize out our Diana. And because Diana is distant, we get to materialize an Aetherwing card from our deck, and we still pay material costs for it. So there are two things that you can look into. You can look into the Seeker's Aetherwing, which of course is Spell Shroud and True Sight, which gets around a lot of removal. But given you're playing against a CL starter deck or another Diana, there's no Fracturize, there's no Baby Green Slime. We don't have to worry too much about that. The other option we have is the Aqua Mirage Whisper. Now, the cool thing here is that we have both two different weapons that we can materialize. And because our champion is distant, we get to materialize that. So, I think in this case, because we have to address a board, we're dealing with a taunt unit, I think what we should be doing is to just get out our Aqua Mirage Whisper. We want to have as well of a good time against any deck that we have, and of course the on-hit Glimpse 1+X, where X is the amount of damage dealt by this hit, that's probably what we want to do. We want to try and clear that 2-4 and try and get ourselves comfortably up to level 2. Alright, so go ahead and materialize that out. Then we're going to go ahead and recollect and draw. So recollect, draw 1. Alright, so it looks like we have some interesting things here. We have some floating memory, which can help, and also get us comfortably so we don't have to use our memory. What I would like to do here is we'll probably do the following. We'll probably pay 1 because we're aiming to use both floating memories to level up so we don't have to worry about what goes into our memory here. And we're going to do Charge the Soul. This one's going to be a little bit, because since we drew it for turn, if it was in our hand, I would activate this pre-recollection step. We deal 1 damage to target unit, then we may load Charge the Soul into an Aetherwing weapon you control. So, what I think what we can do here is that, let's see here. I think what we can do, we can Charge the Soul, we'll ping 1 to the Whimsy Warden. This is way, if we glimpse into any other card, maybe we have a chance of either calling something or activating something that we can also load in. Of course, this is a risk because since that is 2 health, we need to do something on 1, but given that we do have the Aetheric Calibration, that is also something that can really help us out as well. And of course, since we are still distant because we backstep at the end of our opponent's turn, we do have a range 1, which means that our attack will get +1. So let's go ahead and pay our 2 here, and we're going to declare our activation for the Poised Occlusion. Not Poised, Aetheric Calibration. So Aetheric Calibration, we have to resolve this, which is reveal the top card of your deck after you Glimpse Spore. If it's Aether Charge cards, put it into your memory. So let's go ahead and Glimpse Spore. For purposes of learning, I'll just take the top 4 cards and reveal them as such. So let's see here. We do have a Aether Charge card that we can put on top, which would be either the Drown in Aether or the Prudent Knock. Now, of course, given that we do not have any activations that we can trigger off of Aether Calling, what I am interested in doing is kind of leaving some on top and leaving some on the bottom. I think the Prudent Knock is probably the best way we can look at it, because, of course, we get to draw a card into memory, which pays ourselves back, and we get to load it. The Drown in Aether, although these are fast activations, they're good for now, probably not good for the future. And then the reposition, I already have 2 repositions in hand. This can actually go on the bottom. So when I declare my glimpse is done, I will declare 1 goes to the bottom, and then these 3 will go on top in this order. Then, of course, I leave the Prudent Knock on top first. I reveal. Oh, hey, it is an Aether Charge card, so I will load that into memory. So put this here and put it face down. So, what are we looking at here? We do have a 1, a 1, and a 1. So, this is technically a 3 attack. So, unfortunately, it won't be able to clear. However, given that we would like to optimize our play, it was only a chance. So, if anything, we can just redirect the damage over there. But, of course, since this is going in, as such, we will commit to our misplay. So what we're going to do next is going to declare an attack with Diana. We're going to swing into the Quarry Bosulator for 3. And what we're going to do with the Quarry Bosulator for 3? Well, guess what? We get to deal 3 damage to it. Of course, the Quarry Bosulator is going to declare a retaliation for 2. So Diana's, of course, going to take 2. But the good thing is we do get to on-hit, trigger our on-hit. Now, after this is done, Charge the Soul goes into the graveyard, and our on-hit goes up. We're going to make sure we get out a D6 to make sure that we are onto 2 durability counters left after the attack resolves. So now we get to glimpse X +1, so we glimpse 4 again, and then we put the top card of our deck into a graveyard. So given that we have Drown in Ether, the Guided Starlight, and the Undercurrent Vantage, the Glimpse 3 becomes distant is nice, but knowing that we are going to be ditching out a card into our graveyard, I think the way we do is that we want to keep this at the bottom, because this is our Astra card. The Undercurrent Vantage, we actually want to keep second from the top. The Drown in Ether can be third. And then we can leave this on top and mill it. We don't want to stack up too many defensive cards. We know that we're in a little bit of a losing position, but of course, if it's Star Deck tournament, don't believe in the gacha unless you have another card that allows you to ping it an extra damage. You do want to not waste your attacks and clear out at least one of CL's allies. So then I'm going to go ahead and pass a turn. Therefore, when the turn is ended, Diana loses distant. So then CL gets to go ahead and get their turn in. And we're going to go ahead and, let's say, level up again. So we are looking to aggressively level up. So we'll go ahead and banish out both cards. And we go into CL, Omen Ringer, level 2. Now, of course, for each Omen you have, you can discard a card from your hand or memory and draw a card into memory. What I like about this is that because we don't have to worry about the Martial Guard, we can actually use this as floating memory, and we draw a card into memory. We get to see it's a Nocturne's Oblivion, which is not as good, but on the bright side, we at least get to see what we're going to recollect and draw into. Alright, so on the bright side, we do have a Conflict Essential, but because we do not have enough to go off on about, we will have to unfortunately pass the turn. Now, what I do like, what I can do here, is that as much as I would like to use the Martial Guard floating memory to level up, I think one of the cool things that you can do with CL is that you can kind of cycle through your Omen cards and eventually get back to eventually probably hitting level 3. So, I think what I can do here is that since we have a 2-cost, let's try and introduce a 3-cost in here in terms of Nocturne's Oblivion. The Survival Possession is going to get the Omen counter on, and then we're going to leave ourselves up, just in case Diana decides to swing at us again. Anything like actively attacking or actively defending, any type of damage is good damage. So let's go ahead and go back, and let's go to Diana. Now, because we are also an end step, we are going to activate 1. We're going to reposition Diana. Why? Because we get to renew our distant card. And that's the pretty much interesting thing, because you do want to accelerate to level 3, because that's when you get to activate all the cool cards. So we only have to pay 1, we reposition, goes to memory, and that's it. Now, as we wake up, we get to see that, oh, we have a Charge of Soul that souls as floating memory, and our reposition also serves as floating memory. So we'll take out these 2, and we'll level up into Diana level 2. Judgment's Arrow. Now, Judgment's Arrows means that on enter, you get to load up to 2 Aether Charge cards from your hand or memory into an Aether Wing weapon you control. For each card loaded this way, draw a card in the memory. And of course, we have an additional inherited effect of ranged 1. And since we also have ranged 1 on our level 1, this means that she has a range 2. So let's see what cards we want to load and go in the memory. Now, the cool thing about Diana is that since you're loading up cards from your memory into an Aether Charge weapon, you do not have to worry about what elemental requirements you have. So we can actually look at some of these cards and realize, well, we have to keep in mind our element class bonus, but we also have to realize that we also have a class bonus as well. So always keep in mind that if you do not have the Astro element enabled, you cannot utilize its additional effect. So since we can load up any 2 cards from our memory, we're going to go with Constellation's Blessing. And then we draw a card in the memory. We see an Undercurrent Vantage. Well, we only have 1 other. So load that also in and draw a card in the memory. And just like that, we have loaded up our gun with a very distant Diana, and we get to even accelerate our win condition a little bit more. So let's go ahead and recollect and draw. Alright. So what do we have here? We have a charged 8th Aqua Moat's Whisper. We see that there is a 2 and 2 here based on a side row spell shot and our Constellation's Blessing. We already have an attack of 1 on our weapon. That's 5 damage off here. But with our distant with Diana 1, Diana 2, we have an additional 2. So of course, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. This is a 7 damage swing. 7 damage. So let's see what we can do here. I think what we can do is that we can probably hold up some defense. We want to try and have more floating memory to utilize because we want to hit level 3. Now, is there going to be some benefit to materializing out another card besides leveling up? Yeah, there are some instances. We could probably run through some test hands after this demo. But for now, let's go ahead and finally get rid of the actual taunt. So of course, unfortunately, we are going to take another 2 because the CL player will choose to retaliate with the Koi Bonsclair, dealing us 2 back. But on the bright side, now the Koi Bonsclair is now dead. Now, of course, what happens after combat? This will go to 1 durability. The side row spell shot, we will go into our graveyard, and so will the Constellation's Blessing. Now we trigger our on hit, where we actually get to Glimpse 7, which is insanely good. Alright, so we already know that these idle thoughts are going to go to the bottom. We already advanced our game strategy right now so that we actually do not need to utilize them anymore because we already have some ways to start finding a way to level up given that we have a mix of floating memory and influence neutral cards. So what I'm going to do is, let's see. I think what I can do is that I do want to leave the Guard Starlights on top, because I would like to activate the Aetheric Calibration at the beginning of my Recollection step. So Reposition will probably be also another card that I would like to put on top, but at the bottom, because I would like a way to go distant. And then Starbirth, this one's an interesting card, just to be able to draw a card in memory and summon an Astral Shard token. It technically will be a influence neutral card as you get a card back into memory, but also getting the Astral Shard token to Glimpse 2 is very, very good. So how do I want to do this? Well, we do know that we want to keep this on top. We also want to probably keep these on top in this order. And then, I think, unfortunately, the way I think it goes then, because now that I realize that the on hit is that you mill one, we're gonna get the, let me just make sure I get these 5 cards back. Okay, so maybe not this one, but so my misplay was that the Glimpse also involves milling a card in graveyard. So what can make it easier for us, we'll stack it on top like this, allow the Aether Callings to go through. Put this one on top, and then this will be the card left on top to mill to give us an extra floating memory. So, looking at what else we have here, we have some, I think we have some ways to kind of get ourselves ready to level up. We have Reposition to give us our float, Idle Thoughts as our other float, and then we can actually do an Undercurrent Vantage if we want to give extra float. So as you can see, Diana is very, not heavy on allies, but more of controlling the board, which is just right on key with water. So we'll go ahead and pass a turn. So let's go ahead and go back. Now given that CL, we're going to need to buy ourselves some influence here. Let's go ahead and search out a, I think what we can do is, I think we can go for a Life Essence Amulet here. I think the reason being is that I don't think, I don't have a way to do attack cards yet. And given that we do have some allies on board, it is likely that Diana won't be able to kill this ally on CL's turn. So we could probably bank on the Life Essence Amulet from triggering us to get us a draw. So Recollect and draw. And we have another Umber card. So now we're slowly getting into the same problem with CL. Now, at least a good thing here is that as long as you have 2 or more omens, Whimsy's Ward gets +2. So she can protect CL from more damage, and given that there are already 2 omen cards in here, she's going to be a 3-2 interceptor, which is very, very good. So I guess what we can do here, we'll let it go, and then we're going to use this card to be our 3rd omen. So now that we have 3 to 4, our attack gets +2. Eventually, we would like to get to a point where we do get to 5 or more, because every attack we make gets to draw us a card in memory, giving us some really good card advantage. Of course, we'll leave the Whimsy's Warden up. We want to try and intercept and protect CL. So let's go ahead and go back to Diana's turn. Well, Diana is going to activate some stuff at the end of CL's turn. So for now, we're actually going to pay out the 1. I'm going to see if I can do... We'll go ahead and use the Undercurrent Vantage to pay 1 to reposition. We'll make Diana distant. So double checking our graveyard here, I see that we have 1 floating memory card here and no others. On the good part, that's fine, because guess what? We do have at least 3 memory to level up Diana to level 3. So we'll go ahead and pay out these 2 floats, and we'll banish out our remainder float, and we're going to find Diana. Moon Piercer. So Diana is already distant, so it will not be effective until we get to our next turn. But on the bright side, we do now have a way to charge cards and have access to activating these Astral. So what are we gonna do? Let's see. So what are we gonna do here? I think what I like is that we'll go ahead and pre-rec. We'll pay 1. We'll go Prudent Knock. We're going to draw a card in the memory. Oh yeah, paying the 2. And then we're going to load the Prudent Knock into the Aether Wing. So we'll do that. And draw a card in the memory. The Aether Cowboy, which is fine. And then we're going to Recollect and draw 1. Alright, so how do we want to set up a turn knowing that we do have an Interceptor in hand? Well, I think the way that we can maximize the value of this Akwamatsu Whisper is that we can try and see the following. We do want to make our champion unblockable. So unblockable means we don't have to worry about the Whimsy's Warden trying to intercept us. So let's go ahead and let's get this going. Let's see. So Sideways Spell Shop at an X cost. We probably don't want to do that now. And then we can probably do it like this. Alright. We're going to pay 2. Use these 2. And it will activate Aetheric Calibration to Glimpse Spore and then reveal a top card of the deck. If it's an 8 charge card, put it into your memory. So, get this here. Oh. So we Glimpse Spore. Now, of course, we're going to use our Aether Calling skill, because now that we have the element bonus enabled, we're going to go ahead and load the guides into the Aether Wing weapon and give ourselves an additional +2. I think for this one, I could probably put it like here so that I can at least see what attack cards are on. So we have an additional 3, and then with our distant, we also have range 2. Also, we have to make sure that we go for a reveal top card. If it's an 8 charge card, put it in memory. We do want something to give us stuff back. So we'll leave Starbirth on top. Reposition can go next. And then we'll leave Dissuading Aether. So we'll do that. Stack it on top. Reveal Dissuading Aether. It's an 8 charge card. We put it into our memory. And then we load this one. So now we want to make sure that we don't have to worry about the 3. We want to be able to hit a really good shot into CL. So what we're going to do next is that we are going to pay 2. And activate the Guided Starlight. So that means the champion's next attack turn gains unblockable unless opponent pays 3. And we get to load it in. So now CL is forced to pay 3 in order to get unblockable. The dilemma that they have here is that they can choose to pay the 3 and choose to intercept. However, what they realize is that they won't be able to You know, they want to be able to use their life essence amulet. But if anything, I get to at least force them to level up going into lower influence in hand, and I get rid of another ally on the board. So, as a CL player, if you're going to be on the receiving end of this Diana shot, which is going to be 1, 3, 4, 5, 7, 9 damage, you probably just want to tank the hit and let the ally die, paying the 3 to do so. Now the problem is, what are you going to do afterwards? Well, you really don't want to get rid of all 3 cards, but with the Life Essence Amulet, you're probably going to end up getting at least 1 card back, but you probably won't have a board state to utilize, and Diana still has plenty of good influence to materialize another Aetherwing weapon and start swinging. But Diana, we're going to make him have it, and of course, as a CL player, we're going to have to force ourselves to defend, because taking 9 is a big hit, and hopefully we don't have any more. So I'll pay the 3 here. And so now it's no longer unblockable. So I'm going to declare an intercept with the Whimsy's Warden because I have 2 more opens. Guess what? I retaliate for 3. So Diana's going to take another 3. And it dies. Triggers happen. And of course, if it's the turn player, turn triggers enters the stack first, which means they resolve last. And then the non-turn player effects will be added to the stack, which means that they will resolve first. So this weapon already went through 3 durabilities and it is banished as a result of using all 3 attacks. So Life and Samuel will trigger. I'm going to banish 1, draw a card. Then we're going to trigger Diana's on hit with the banish. We're going to go back to her. And because I dealt 9 damage, I get to glimpse 10. And when I glimpse 10, I can go ahead and mill one of those 10. So let's go ahead and see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Make sure to set that out. Alright, so what do we see here? Alright, so we see some stuff that we can utilize, and we know that we're going to mill out 1. We might as well mill the Corsair Captain because at least with this ally, he can offer us floating memory. But what do we do about the rest? Well, we don't need that much defense because CL is probably going to have to force to level up. So the Star Wars Shieldmate, as much as it can be another good ally, I guess it can also be something you would mill with Corsair Captain. It really depends on what type of ally you're trying to look for. Given that we're going later into the game, we can forego the Star Wars Shieldmate and at least put that to the bottom because we don't need an O2. We need dudes on board that can, you know, give ourselves some good float. Given that not much other floating options we have, I think there's a way that you can stack this to actually utilize the Astrocyte. So I think what can happen here is that the Astrocyte will probably be second from the top because that card's going to get milled. And so the Corsair Captain is probably going to be next. And of course, the Aetheric Calibrations, it's a little bit awkward. We can keep one on top, one on the bottom. The Constellation's Blessing, we probably also want to keep somewhat nearby. And then the Reposition, the Meteoric Volley, Calibration, and Starbirth. Probably all go in like this order. Which leaves our Undercurrent Advantage. We'll mill it. Alright. So that was our turn to hit. And we're good there. Now it's CL's turn. So CL, let's go ahead and level up. So we're gonna banish all 3. And now we have unlocked CL's level 3 now. This is gonna be CL Mirage's Grave. And so we're gonna recollect and draw. Given that we have no items or no influence to activate either Flamswell or Heavy Swing, we're gonna go ahead and pass. And we're going to go ahead and get an Omen out here. Oh, I just realized I had floating memory. So, I think what we can do here then, let's just choose one to keep. Because that actually changes things. Wait, is there something that's actually 3? I think the Ground Sway, we could probably use that to materialize out the weapon. So, we'll just commit to our misplay. And we will banish out the Whimsy's Warden for our 4th Omen. That means we just need one more Omen, and then we can actually and triggering it, we deal Diana 2, unpreventable. Next turn, we should be able to get the 5, and then we can now catch up on damage. I think the flavor I've seen with Ciel is that Ciel is able to catch up on damage even if he hasn't dealt a single one in the entire game. So now let's go ahead and see what we can materialize next. Given that we have access to floating memory, I think we do have access to what I like is Ranger Boots. But given that we actually do need some cards to kind of set up, I think what we can do is recover some influence and set up a next turn. So if you're in this portion of the game, you're probably trying to think of any particular way to get yourself more prepared for after the first swing and recovering to get to your next swing. So recollect and draw. Alright. So let's see what we have here. You can draw a card in memory, then summon an Astral Sword token. Alright. So we do have some negate card activations. We do have some ways to allow ourselves to be distant. I think what we can do here is we can pay the 2. So I think because there's no allies, you can use Drown in Aether. And then we're not going to use Sidewell Shot. Go for the Etheric Calibration. We're going to go ahead and Gloom Spore. We're going to start setting up our draws for the next round. Now, the way that you want to do it, if you had a weapon out here, you would use the Aether Calling first and then declare your Star Call. Now, given that we have a 4th card that we don't really need, it can be a useful ally for later, but we do want to have something that can serve as a volley. So this will probably be our Constellation's Blessing. So what we can do is that we'll glimpse it like this. We'll put the ally to the bottom. We do want to keep Astral Sight on top, but we do want to have a Meteoric Volley as well because that's our finisher. Let's go ahead and leave this on top, and then we reveal. Aether Charge card goes into our memory. And then we may load it, but because we don't have a load, it will just go to Graveyard. So we're going to pass go on this one. I think, as much as I like to activate the Starburst now, I would like the Dissuading Aether to actually use a -3, especially for Ciel's first hit. Because now 10 to 15 damage to 25 seems a little bit more doable. Let's go back to Ciel. And let's use our Floating Memory, because now we're going to materialize out our Grand Sonnier. So as long as the total reserve cost of your omens is 10 or greater, gets +2. Well, the good thing is, we have 5, 2, 3, 2. So 5, 10, 12. We have met the minimum condition for Grand Solier, so now we do have a +2. So let's recollect and draw. So let's see what we can do here. We can set up a heavy swing for next turn, but what I do like is that this is a fast activation. Of course, we don't want to use so much right now. I think what we can do is have Ciel start swinging for 4 + 2, 6 damage. Diana was probably thinking about wanting to give the Ciel the -3, because honestly, taking less damage early is better, because you know once it gets into later turns, it's nice to negate the card activations when it comes to heavy swings and other attack cards, but when taking damage, you want to kind of stifle the damage a little bit. So we'll go ahead and use the Dissuading Aether to give the attack -3. And even though we can't load it, at least it would be something to mitigate. So this is 4 + 3, 4 + 2, 6. Minus that, we only take 3. Alright. And then let's go ahead and pass a turn. That durability goes to 2. So we're going to go ahead and wake up. Let's see what we want to materialize out here. Let's materialize out our Pallades, which is our signature weapon right here. And let's go ahead and recollect and draw. Alright. So now we can start setting this up. I think what you can do here, we'll begin with our... We don't have any allies, so let's go ahead and Starbirth. We draw a card in memory, then summon an Astral Shield token. This is our Volley. Volley will help us out next turn. We summon an Astral Shard. Then we'll go ahead and we will... Let's pay 1 here for Constellation's Blessing. So we get to draw a card, and then we get to load it. We draw. And we get to load. The benefit of this is that although we would like to declare an attack now, we are just kind of preparing ourselves to negate one of CL's attacks and then go distant. Why? Because we have Poised Occlusion. So Poised Occlusion, of course, only costs 2, so it's a 3 influence play. You have to watch out. So let's play more of the defensive, and let's see what CL does. CL realizes that, oh, okay, so we got to this point in the game. I just want to be able to deal damage. I need something quick. So let's see what we can do here. I think for this turn, let's go ahead and get ourselves our Armoire. The reason why the Armoire is so good is that we get to return one of the Omen cards to hand. And we get to banish another card and put an Omen counter on it. So let's go ahead, Recollect, and draw. So say we have a Sentinel, we have the Flame Sorrel, and we have our Vigil Rampart. I think given that we would like to have a ally on board, we are going to see if we can try and utilize our Vigil Rampart, but then again, the Conflagrant Sentinel, it's not something we can really utilize at this time. I think, given what we have, I think we can play around with this a little bit. I think realizing that we need to get rid of the weapon before it deals damage to us, we're going to pop the Armoire. We'll get out the Nocturne's Oblivion. And then we will cycle in the Vigil Rampart. Why? At least in here, you have different reserve costs. A 2, a 4, a 2, and a 5. It's sad that we had to take out the 3, but at least on the bright side, we don't have to worry too much because we're trying to get rid of the weapon. So let's go ahead and see if they have it. Instead of attacking, we'll present the Nocturne's Oblivion. As long as you have 5 or more omens with different reserve costs, cost 2 us to activate. We're just going to activate it for 3. We're going to target the weapon. Of course, Diana has to protect her weapon. That's why she held up cards in the first place. So first, we're going to go ahead and Astrocyte first. I'm curious as to what we will glimpse into. We get another Starbirth. We don't mind. We can just draw that to hand. Resolves. We'll sacrifice the Astral Shard. Glimpse 2. We see Backstep and Dissuading Aether. We don't need to do either of these. I think we're fine with what we have. We can put both to the bottom. Alright, and then in response to that, we'll go ahead and use our Pay 2. And reveal Poised Occlusion. Negate target card activation, put that card that says activation negate into its opponent's memory, and class bonus, you draw into your memory and your champion becomes distant. Well, guess what? You draw a card in the memory, and then it becomes distant. This now triggers Diana Moonpiercer's effect, where, at least in this instance, you can choose one. Negate each card activation that targets Diana unless its control plays 2. Then Diana's defending, you end the combat phase unless that attacking player pays 2. Well, given that we are trying to save our weapon right here, and it's already been negated, so the Nocturne's Oblivion would actually go back to memory. We do have another negate to delay it more, but given that we are going on the offensive this route, we are going to go ahead and glimpse 2. Looks like from here we can put the Shieldmate to the bottom. Probably put the Charge of Soul on top just to get some extra damage in. And then we go back to CL. And he's like, alright, well, if I can't get rid of the weapon, I might as well start doing more damage. So then we're going to go ahead and have CL swing for 4. This would be 4 plus 2 would be another 6. Diana has to take the 6. She goes to 19. And then this goes to 1 durability. Ciel's trigger. Unfortunately, there's nothing in grave or hand to do, so we will have to pass without doing an omen. It hurts a little bit, but that's unfortunately what happens. Alright, then we go to Diana's turn. Now that she's distant, she can actually utilize more of her material deck. So now this is where Diana hopefully is going to come back. And I think in this case, we can probably put up something like a Foresight Lens. Where in here, you get to Glimpse 2. If your champion is distant, you Glimpse 4 instead. Now, why would I want to Glimpse 4 already? I want to actually get some Aether Calling cards. Why? Ciel is down to no cards in hand. Therefore, we can probably see if we can try and get the one-shot. Diana is already distant. That's great. So let's go ahead and Glimpse 4. Alright, we do see some Star Calling cards. Well, we see an Aether Calling, so we're going to load in the Constellation's Blessing. That's great. And then the other 3, well, we don't have to worry too much. We can put these to the bottom, and we'll charge the soul on top. And then we'll go ahead and recollect. And draw. Alright, so what do we have here? We have a really big turn where we can possibly see if we can hit 30. Now, how would you magically hit 30? Well, let's see here. I think what you can do, you have the Sidereal Spell Shard that can Glimpse. You also have Charge the Soul that can Glimpse. And then you have the Meteoric Volley that also has something. So we want to start preparing our hand to activate and maximize the amount of damage that we have. Well, we know that we're going to have the Meteoric Volley in here. This is going to be the offensive turn. Let's go ahead and we could probably do these 3 to pay for Meteoric Volley. And then we could probably put 1 and 1 to pay for each Charge the Soul. Ambitious, but at least we can have something to cook here. So let's go ahead. Charge the Soul. Deal 1 damage to Ciel. Load it in. Pay 1. Charge the Soul. Deal another damage to Ciel. Charge it in. And now Diana is going to try and really pull off one of the craziest attacks that she can do. A lot of people have been able to deal 20 plus damage because of this. So Diana will attack Ciel. She is distant, so guess what? To visualize it, now everything's going into the intent area. This is going to be important because we're going to have something while she's attacking. So they're now in the intent area. And we'll go ahead and pay 3. And while she's attacking, we'll activate Meteoric Volley. Activate only if this card's attacking, if this champion is attacking. For each Aether Charge in the intent, you create a copy of that. So we copy Charge of Soul, we copy Constellation's Blessing. So this was 6 damage play. This is going to be a 12 damage with this. 12 plus 2 plus 2. That's 16 damage. 16 damage with one in one swing. And on attack, Astral Element Aether Charge cards in the attack attack gain on hit summon an Astral Shard token. Well, guess what? All these cards are copies. Copies are cards. So, assuming that I have this right, and of course I'm going to double check the Judge Discord to make sure that this is good, because this is going to be... This is why we do this. Alright. Alright. So, an explanation, versus copies and intent versus abilities, effects, and modified cards intent. The rulebook will have an updating regarding it, but too long didn't read. Copies of cards and intent are in cards and won't be applicable for effects abilities like Pleiades that give cards changes. Okay, so given that I had to fact check myself, thankfully, even though we create a copy, so we create 4 copies of these cards, only these 4 will have the on hit summon an Astral Shard Seal token. So we double the amount of cards in the intent, but it still remains the same for the on attack, on hit. So this is going to be 16 damage, which is a lot. Because just to clarify, we have 2, 4, 6, double that, 12, 12 plus 2, 14, 15, 16 with distant. So Ciel is going to now take 16 damage, go all the way up to 18. On hit, these 4 cards go to graveyard. But guess what? We have 4 of these things. So we can load it up for next turn. And given that we have still a healthy amount of influence, we can pass turn with our Ranger Boots to serve as our defense. Ciel is in a little bit of trouble because unfortunately we're not able to get ourselves that 5th card in the Omen. So we're going to make up for that. We're going to slow Diana down. So that's why we're going to materialize our Terror Frame. So we're going to Recollect, draw 1. Alright, so let's see what we have here. Given that we have the Nocturne's Oblivion again, we do know that there's going to be an instance where Diana's going to gain distant. So I think the only thing I can do here is make her pay the additional 2 and potentially offset her entire turn. So I think one thing I can do is that I know she's going to go distant. Distant's going to be pretty rough. I don't want to put hands down because I don't want to avoid losing out on an Omen. So the only thing I can do here is that I'm not going to heavy swing this turn. Instead, we'll go ahead and see if we can do a Flamme Socel. Well, we'll be probably forced to activate this main phase because we'll see what happens here. Diana really can't affect it right now because at least it's not targeting her. So, alright, we'll just go ahead and draw. We'll discard our Kori Bouncelier because that's actually useful, and then we draw again. Alright. So now we have ourselves a decent ally we can put up as defense. So not only Diana has to get around Terror Frame, but she also has to plow through a Star Wars Shieldmate. The good thing is we already used 2 of our Charge the Souls. So we know that at least she's not going to get pinged twice. So we're going to go ahead and move to end step. We have a Kori Bouncelier in the graveyard. Now Ciel will be able to attack the 5. So now Diana's going to think, how am I going to get through the rest of this? Well, let's go ahead and begin. We'll banish the Ranger Boots. So tap, banish, she gains distant. Distant for Diana, we're going to glimpse 2. Let's see here. We're not going to use both, so we're going to put those to the bottom of the deck. Then we're going to sack each of our shards. So we're going to go to 3, glimpse 2. We see Charge the Soul. We're going to roll that. Oh, wait, nope. We actually want to keep that on top. Diana's already distant, so we don't need the backstep. The Charge the Soul we can actually leave on top. As much as we would like to see more Aether Calling cards, I think one of the key things is we can't really utilize what... we can't utilize the Aether Calling as we try and find a way to get rid of our Taunt. So let's go ahead and wake up. Diana's distant at least, so she'll have that. I think what we can do here... I think we'll materialize out our own Terror Frame. And we'll recollect and draw. Alright. So now my thing is that we have to find out a way to get ourselves ready for an attack. Given that Ciel is probably going to be a little bit comfortable with this taunt minion, so he's not going to pop the Terror Frame. I think what we can do, we'll probably pay 1. We'll just go for Starbirth, we'll draw into memory. You see our Glimpse 3. We go back up to 4 here. And we have a way to get ourselves distant next time. We don't want to utilize too much of our durability. So let's go ahead and leave up interaction and pass. So now Ciel is going to go to his turn. I think Ciel, what we're going to do... To address this, let's get out the Leporine Mask. Given we don't have any cards in hand, it's going to be a little unfortunate, but it's alright. We'll just recollect and draw. Alright. But Diana has some interaction up, obviously. And we need to find a way to get ourselves ready to proceed with the endgame. The shield mate is going to protect us for the time being. Right now, what we can do, let's do the Ombrius Chevalier. So let's summon our ally. Let's see if Diana is actually going to negate this. If so, great. If not, it's not the end of the world. So given that as a Diana player, I do want to try and clear out as many allies as possible, even if it's to delay. So that's why we're probably going to end up, let's see, we'll pay 2 here. And we'll do Poised Occlusion. So we're going to negate the activation and put it back in the memory. And we draw a card in the memory. And Diana becomes distant. And since Diana becomes distant, we're going to go ahead and glimpse 2. We see Rested Ally and Backstep. We'll put both to the bottom. We don't need those right now. Ciel, unfortunately, hopefully that's going to be the last negate. And then Sushi comes back here. Ciel, now that we do have 5 omens in here, Ciel is now forced to swing into the taunt minion. Ciel is now going to swing into Diana. Now the cool thing is, now that Ciel has, not the taunt minion, the champion. So it's going to get +2. So this is going to be 4. 4 plus 3 is 7. Now surprisingly, this is actually lethal. I think, and you draw a card in the memory for having 3 more. So I think the Diana player might have misplayed a little bit, realizing that, okay, if you're gonna negate my ally, what do you have against my board? So this is where Ciel is probably gonna actually able to clear the damage, because Ciel +2 for the Grand Solaire for 4. 4 plus 3 is 7. 7 is lethal. So I think as raw and of a hot mess this game is, I know that looking back on this, some misplays that I could have done better. The on-enter Glimpse 3 probably would have helped. Maybe the Glimpse 2, or even just trying to negate, because given that if Ciel only had 1 card in hand, of course it would have been a little rough, because now there would be a 3/3 that would take 2 unpreventable, take another 3 to go to 22, and then the Omen would trigger to hit the 25. There's only so much that Diana can do to kind of mitigate all that. But the fact that she was able to take Ciel from 2 to 18, it kind of promotes out a way that if you're going to be using your negates, you probably want to use the negates to make sure you have game next turn. Of course, also one of the other misplays you can see is probably the Terrafring. Terrafring pops are very rough because it is presumed that you do want to activate the Terrafring next turn. However, if you feel like you have interaction on your turn, whether it's negates or combat tricks to save your allies, save your weapons, that's also a reason to kind of leave the Terrafring out for a turn, because you're already prepared with Influence in hand to activate and disrupt. I think also with a misplay that might happen this weekend, Ciel, you definitely want to make sure you have an Omen up every turn. Missing the Omen was definitely rough, given that when you're only 1 Omen away from 4 to 5, it's extremely important to have. So unfortunately also, when you make sure you resolve stuff and go to Graveyard, you also can know that some of this stuff can also be omened out as well. I think some optimizations that if you would like to try and replay this game or go a GG Go Next, I think that rushing to 3 is good. But if you have a strategy to go to level 3, such as you have 40 memory or you have aggressive attacks, I think that the good thing is about both decks is that they're both like a big swing deck. The big swings are nice. You should not feel bad about not dealing any damage in the first 2 turns. Like, if you have an ally focused hand, you could possibly go crazy with it. You probably aggro them out and put them in a position where now they're going to have to play cards out early and try and clear their board. Of course, the misplay I made in the beginning of the game was not being able to use Charge Assault to ping the 1 on the 2/4 ally, because I would have been able to clear that and avoid another 2 damage that would be dealt to me. I think also looking into the rest of your material deck, this can also influence how you want to approach your turns. Given that if Diana has any allies on board, whether it's a Stalwart Shieldmate or the Captain, the Bulwark Sword or the Grande Aguilera would probably be 2 good 0 cost regalia you can materialize. Because in essence, anything that you can do to clear an opponent's board is less value for them going forward. The value game really is if an ally is on board for more than one full turn cycle, you have technically plus with that ally because that ally can be there to guard for you, that ally can still attack for you and deal damage, and that damage ramps up. If you clear an ally with a turn, then you're probably going to be in a little bit of a tougher situation. But I think that through these hot mess misplays, you can feel free to comment down below and see like what other triggers I missed, what other things would I have done differently, and maybe even the strategies that you plan to take into your starter deck tournaments for the weekend. I hope that through my misplays and hot mess that you learned something, and we can probably take away a nice way that you can go into starter deck tournament with a little bit more preparation than the rest of the field. If you want to try, feel free to take my misplays and turn it into your wins. So thank you guys again for your time. The Alfonso's team, great luck, and the Hot Mess Gamer. We're going to be signing out, and hopefully you guys learned a couple things from my errors. Cheers and good night.